Good morning, YouTube. It's 5:30 in the morning and it's 37 degrees. It got chilly last night. Red Wattle Hogs. I thought that's what I could talk about today is the red wattle and why we chose it, and I think why it's going to become a pretty popular pig in the coming years. Yeah. So the red wattle pig is, as the name implies, mostly red. You'll get color hues from like a blonde red all the way down to almost a black and everything in between, but it'll have a red hue in it. The most common being the type we have, which are, like an auburn color. Yeah. They shouldn't have spots. If they do, they should only have them on their abdomen, and they should only be a few. But they shouldn't have any side spots or leg spots or anything like that. They're pretty big pigs. They can range from 600 to 800 pounds, with boars being as big as 1,200 pounds. So it's a big pig. They typically get butchered around 300 pounds with a hanging weight of around 245 pounds or so. They're good mothers. They produce a lot of milk, and they're good to their litters. They can habitat in a range of climates, really anything in the United States, anything from Florida all the way up into Alaska. They're pretty hardy. There's not a lot of history written about the red wattle. Their first known existence was in the mid 1800s on the Gulf Coast of Gulf of America there. And then they slowly made their way into North America. And they're exclusively, not exclusively, but they're most exclusive in the United States. Meaning the breed is really dependent on what we do. There's not a lot of breed activity outside of the United States. So at one point, the numbers were as low as 272 purebred registered offspring. And in late 1999, a gentleman made a quest to find as many breeding pairs as he could to reestablish the breed. And he had as many as 42 breeding animals. So that's pretty low numbers. Now, they made a comeback, but their still numbers are low, and they're still harder to find than most heritage pigs. So, but why did we get red wattles? Well, some of the reasons, and not these are really just personal opinion, fact based, but most of what happens in pig husbandry, there's so many variables and everything that it would be tough to separate them by traits, because you would just have pigs all over the place. You know what I mean? For instance, one of the reasons why I wanted a red wattle was their ability to root and dig and hunt worms and things with their nose. I want that disturbance on our property. We need some kind of disturbance on the land, and I wanted something that was going to break up the soils, really the hard clay soils that we have here. So red wattle was a good choice for us. Now others may just want them to graze on the grass and not do all the rooting that the red wattle does. Well, then don't go with the red wattle, because they'll disappoint you. Go with a cooney or something like that, or find a different heritage breed that doesn't root as much. But we wanted that. We want that disturbance on our soil and in our pasture, and we're kind of going through the early stages of regrowth on some of her early pens that she was in. So her ability to root was important to us. Temperament. We've had Daisy since December 2nd of this past year, 24, and she's been exceptional, and so has her temperament. It wasn't until the other day, 2 days ago and yesterday, that she showed any kind of aggressive nature, and it was towards the piglets. And she's been a little bit pushy the last couple days, I noticed. So I don't know if it's her and the piglets having issues. I know there's an issue there. She chased them out every time. We had to actually put the piglets back into the piglet training pen, and because Daisy just kept chasing them away. So their temperament probably isn't as mild as people suggest, but it's certainly mild compared to most breeds of pigs. So with us having kids and other farm animals and what have you, the temperament was something we considered, and the red wattle has one of the best temperaments. So another reason, pretty significant reason, because it hits the pocketbook, is the feed rate conversion. And what that is how fast they convert feed into muscle mass. The red wattle is one of the best at that, meaning that it grows quickly. What the weights a red hog can achieve at 6 months, most breeds can't achieve till at least a year, or some 18 months before they can achieve those kinds of weights. And that's around a 300-pound pig. The red wattle will be there in about 6 months. Other pigs will be there in about 12 months, and some pigs, like I said, as far as 18 months to grow 300 pounds. So the feed rate conversion was real important to us. We didn't want to be growing a pig for a year or more. I wanted to have it done relatively quickly. And the red wattle facilitates that. It's I don't overfeed them. I give them a measured amount every day. Daisy gets between 5 and 6 pounds a day, and the kids get between 3 and 4 pounds a day. So keep that into consideration. Feed isn't cheap. Every 10 bags is almost $200. So, you gotta take all that into consideration. So what do we got? We got temperament, feed rate conversion, ability to root, and I don't know if I just say that right. Yeah. So I should mention, and these weren't so much reasons as they are acknowledgments of her characteristics after the fact. And one of them is her ability to adapt. All three of the red wattles seem very capable of adapting to new surroundings. Um, every time I move Daisy's pen, she goes in there and investigates everything, and she has a willingness to do it. She's not just sitting off in the old pen and scowling at me like, what are you doing? She doesn't. I open it up and she's like, oh, this is moving time. And she moves, you know, almost without any food at all. I've done it multiple times with no food. And a couple times it took me, I had to get food to persuade her, but that's okay. So certainly their adaptability, they can range in climates from Florida all the way up to Alaska, and everything in between. They're really, really capable of adapting well. Their meat profile, and this was the one thing that other pigs can't have, and this is one trait that is very unique to the red wattle, and that's the meat profile. They have a very unique red colored meat instead of the white colored meat that pork usually is. It's red like beef, and when you cook it up like beef, it looks, when you cook it up, it looks like beef, where it has, a brown or gray and pink hues through it. Something like a medium well steak or, medium done steak. And they have a very uniform amount of marbling through the meat. Usually you have that medallion in the middle of the pork chop and it's just solid meat. Well, on a red wattle, you'll have that medallion and you'll have all kinds of marbling through it. And it just makes for an exceptional taste because with every bite you get a little bit of that fat. And that's where all the taste is at, is in the fat. So when I had begun looking and searching, when I read all that about it, I was like, this is the kind of animal that can change if not change the market, bring a new item to the market, a whole new level, right? When you're talking beef and Kobe beef, you're talking about Kobe beef on a whole nother level. Well, that's kind of like the red wattle. You have pork, and then you have red wattle meat. That's my impression, and that's what I've witnessed and what I've read, and that time and time again in taste tests, the red wattle exceeds expectations, and people are really taken back by the flavor. So, so certainly the meat profile was a reason. And I think another reason, and I discovered this after the fact, was the red wattles are very low in their numbers across the country. I don't know what they're at now, but 25, 30 years ago, they were very, very low, nearly gone from the country completely. So I want to be a part of that revitalization and that second coming of the red wattle, so to speak. I really like the breed. I just do. They're fun animals. They're cute animals. They're tolerant of humans, and you can physically interact with them and stuff like that, which is great. Relatively easy to train. You just get a big bang for your buck, And I should mention, you'll pay a little more for piglets. I paid $150 each, which is, 3-4 times the going rate of some heritage pigs. I've seen piglets as cheap as $25 for your basic Berkshire, cross. But that's the red wattle. Just a super interesting, diverse, capable, tasty animal. Yep, the red wattle pig. So I'd encourage you, if you're thinking about doing it, pigs, and you're willing to go a little extra in the beginning with finding them and paying a little bit more, they're worth it. They really, really are. They're so much fun, and the meat is so much better. I would just strongly encourage and in my opinion, recommend the red wattle. So, but that's all I really had. I just wanted to share you my thoughts and stuff on that while I'm sitting in the shop. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you next time.